Okay, let's here and call this nuclear Iran 3. Let's start with this story here. Let the auto reader read it to us here.
Tehran, since the Islamic Revolution in 1979, Iranian hardliners have been free to take to the street and object to any form of compromise with the West, and particularly the United States. But when a conspicuously small group of hardliners did so on Tuesday morning in front of the Parliament building, holding up placards and shouting slogans against the nuclear framework agreed to last week in Lausanne, Switzerland, Iran's Interior Ministry condemned the demonstration as illegal because the protesters had failed to obtain a permit.
And of course, this is what they always say. Oh, the protesters failed to get a permit. In the old days, like even in the 90s, it wasn't like that. Yet nowadays, we seem to have to get a permit to go in certain areas and everything. Not that I would really recommend going anyway, because they're just like trying to profile your face and everything anyway. So I don't know if it's really a good idea to go and protesting anyway. You're just asking to get into the government data banks. Anyway, let's continue
There
here.
were also very few reporters. It was perhaps the first time that conservatives, in this case mostly young people genuinely disappointed over the compromises Iran has made to reach a nuclear agreement, seemed disconnected from the power structure here. Analysts say the message from the top is clear: get with the program. Senior officials, important clerics, lawmakers and Republican Guard commanders, who in the past have reflexively opposed any accommodation with the West, now go out of their way to laud Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif and his team of negotiators, as well as the government of President Hassan Rouhani. On Tuesday, General Mohammad Ali Jafari, the highest-ranking commander of the Revolutionary Guards Corps, joined the chorus. The Iranian nation and the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps thank these fierce negotiators for their honest attempts and political jihad, and for their resistance on the defined red lines. The semi-official news agency quoted him as saying. One influential cleric even issued a statement to correct a quote attributed to him that suggested he had been slightly critical of the nuclear framework. Unfortunately, these remarks are like attributed to him. The office of Ayatollah Nazir Shirazi hastily made clear. Only one man has remained silent until now, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader, whose word is always the last. However, analysts say the broad support among conservatives is almost certainly a reflection of his thinking. Damir Batzarabi, a political analyst close to Ayatollah Khomeini, said it should not be surprising that Iran's establishment has closed ranks behind the negotiators and the talks. Wherever Foreign Minister Zarif goes to explain about the negotiations, his arguments are convincing and accepted, he said. Of course, we worry about some details, but they will be hammered out and solved, we are sure. On Tuesday, Mr. Zarif earned glowing praise after he paid a visit to Parliament to describe the nuclear framework and answer lawmakers' questions. Outside were the 150 or so hardline demonstrators. We are the voice of the people, one of the protesters said. We are worried over this deal. But some people passing.
And we should be worried over this deal. I'm with them on this. Like, I think this is utterly crazy that we let Iran have nuclear capabilities when there's ample evidence of them shouting slogans against America and death to Israel and death to America. And you can just find it on YouTube, on Memory TV. I'll check it later. I'll show you later.
I had different ideas. Continue reading the main story graphic, a simple guide to the nuclear negotiations with Iran. A guide to help you navigate the talks between Western powers and Tehran.
Okay, let's go to the next story here. Okay, I'll leave links anyway, so you can check out the stories for yourself. Let's go to the next one here. Let's erase all this. Put the new one in here. Okay, let's see what this one has to say.
Israel's disputed status as a nuclear power was recently dispelled following media publicity of a declassified 1987 Pentagon report titled Critical Technological Assessment in Israel and NATO Nations. The document provides insight into Israel's nuclear research and capabilities during the 1970s and 1980s, providing an interesting historical backdrop as well as an opportunity to analyze the recent hyperbole from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu with regard to the P5+1 talks on reaching the nuclear framework deal with Iran, as well as Israel's insistence that Iran recognize the settler colonial entity as a Jewish state. The report, which has been hailed as a recent discovery, has been cited as proof of the U.S. admitting knowledge of Israel's nuclear capabilities, among other strong statements asserting that Israel's nuclear research in the 1970s and 1980s was equivalent to our Los Alamos, Lawrence Livermore, and Oak Ridge National Laboratories. However, an earlier report in the New York Times.
We've got to remember, though, Israel's always using it for defensive purposes. They're never, ever going to go offensively unless their life was in danger, okay, or something is in danger. I know that they're talking about this recently with Netanyahu and everything that may do preemptive strikes. But we got to remember, Israel has always been at war ever since they become a nation. That's what the mainstream news seems to forget to tell everybody all the time, is that Israel has been at war perpetually ever since, because there's always been dangers to it. Just look at history.
dated October 27, 1989, contains references to the declassified document within the context of Israel's cooperation with apartheid South Africa's quest to develop a medium-range missile. Within this framework, the New York Times article discusses nuclear research cooperation between Israeli universities and scientific and military research institutes. References from the declassified report indicate that the research carried out within the mentioned decade could contribute to studying the implosion of nuclear devices. Additionally, Israeli nuclear scientist and whistleblower Mordechai New had provided information about Israel's nuclear program in the Naqab, the Dimona nuclear plant, in 1986. The revelations resulted in his being kidnapped by Mossad in 1986 and convicted of leaking Israel's nuclear secrets. Hence the hype created in Israeli media with regard to the alleged divulging of Israel's nuclear secrets by the U.S. amounts to mere rhetorical attempts to distract from Netanyahu's continued efforts at singling out Iran as a unique nuclear threat. The recent scrutiny has rendered reverting to nuclear,
which he should be doing, and I'm glad he's doing this. I don't know if this article is for him doing that or against him. Let's check it out here.
ambiguity practically impossible. Israeli media have discussed the report within the context of the nuclear framework deal with Iran, as well as the Islamic Republic's firm anti-colonial stance, making a stark contrast with the rhetoric usually disseminated at an international level. A joint statement issued by EU High Representative Federica Mogherini and Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif commences with a statement highlighting Iran's repeated assertions of pursuing nuclear research for civilian purposes and downplaying the rhetoric parroted by the West and Israel. As agreed in November 2013, we gathered here to find solutions towards reaching a comprehensive resolution that will ensure the exclusively peaceful nature of the Iranian nuclear program and the comprehensive lifting of all sanctions. The opening statement validates Iran's constant declarations, thus isolating the mainstream discourse aimed at demonizing the country. Iran, however, has clarified the limitations of diplomatic engagement with the U.S. and its allies. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei stated, negotiations with America are solely on the nuclear issue and nothing else. We do not talk with U.S. over regional issues. In the regional issues, America's goals are completely opposed to our goals. Israel's resentment at the nuclear agreement has prompted an outpouring of reassurances from the U.S. and aggressive rhetoric on behalf of Israeli officials. According to reports in the Jerusalem Post, U.S. President Barack Obama said, "What we will be doing, even as we enter this deal, is sending a clear message to the Iranians and the entire region that if anyone messes with Israel, America will be there." Within the context of the Iranian...
Well, they better be with them, or else there's going to be major trouble. Spiritually speaking here, we're supposed to be on Israel's side. And we're not supposed to blindly, as Christians, be on their side with everything, because they are a secular nation and turn their back on God, but they're still God's chosen people. So remember, I'm always coming at this with a biblical overtone and view, with prophetic implications that are happening all the time, from what I've noticed. If you put all these articles together, we'll keep listening here a little bit.
Framework deal and the balance comments. The exaggerated emphasis regarding Iran can be construed as an additional step towards implementing further imperialist policies in the region. The incisive comments by Khomeini provide a verbal deterrent against the typical U.S. interference that is currently being seen, albeit on a different level, in Cuba through the normalization of relations, and in Venezuela by funding violent opposition to Nicolas Maduro's government. It is also prudent to recall that the plan following the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan was, according to General Wesley Clark, to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq, and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and, finishing off, Iran. Demonizing Iran had long provided a fulcrum for the security rhetoric and terror threats spouted by the U.S. and Israel.
Oh yeah, what rhetoric and everything. It's not rhetoric when it's actually the truth. So whatever, national pride, alleged vulnerability. There is a vulnerability because they're being attacked at all times. So yeah, it looks like this article is against Israel. Anyway, now let's go to look at the fruits of Islam, okay? This is a separate story here. A Muslim man overtakes innocent Christian man and throws him into an oven. As you can read the rest here, okay? So this is the fruits of Islam that we're finding. You know, like, you don't find this with Christianity, and if you do, it's not true Christianity or biblical Christianity, as I've said before in other videos. This is taking a while to load, but I'll let you check this out for yourself. In the description, I'll leave the link. And I don't really need to see the video anyway, it's just going to be disgusting. And then, I guess we'll leave that teaching at that. That's good enough. Are you saved? Believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, and thou shalt be saved, and thy house. Read the King James Bible, and God bless.